there's a lot more going on than I think a lot of people realize. And I know at least within the travel industry, a lot of people get into it because they think that they're just going to be hanging out on a beach, but really most of the time you are just.
Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a great guest on because one of the things that you really want to pay attention to as you are building your business are you want to keep an eye on certain expenses that are involved with building your business. And even in your personal life, one of those very big areas that you don't want to spend a lot of headache on is when it comes down to travel arrangements. So as a business, travel is a very real part of it. Maybe not right now during COVID, but normally, or when we get back to whatever normal will be, travel will be involved. And also for your personal life, being able to travel without a headache, it's a very important thing. So I wanted to bring on a business owner that is running a phenomenal business in that space. So Samantha Schultz, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Terrell. I appreciate you having me here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into talking about your travel business and where you are right now, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Like, what were you doing before starting this business?
Yeah, actually, so before starting my travel agency, I actually was in the corporate world. So I was working in learning and development. So everything from writing onboarding materials, doing leadership training within the corporate office. I have an education background as well as a business background. So kind of put the two of those together and was doing that for a while, but really felt that while I was in the corporate world, I wasn't able to do as much traveling as I wanted to do, and really had always had a desire to use my business degree as an entrepreneur and get that flexibility to be able to pursue my passion.
Awesome, awesome. One of those interesting things that I always find is just, that story of navigating from, being in the corporate world to starting your own business because, it can be a scary thing or, and I'm curious as to how did that kind of play out emotionally for you going from working in corporate to, what, I'm going to start my own business.
Well, I have to be completely honest. So I was scared. I mean, so many entrepreneurs, I think, you think to yourself, what am I doing? And it actually took a push from my husband to make me finally make the leap. So I had been researching, how to start a travel agency for years, and I knew I wanted to do it. But, I mean, not that any corporate job is always secure, but I felt very comfortable. I had a nice salary, I was doing really well. And it kind of was one of those things where, is it time? Is it time? And the years kind of kept going by. And finally, we ended up moving. And I thought, okay, well, I'll find a new corporate job. And he said, no. He's like, you're starting your business. This is the clean break you needed. You had needed to be forced to leave, essentially. So, I was a little hesitant at first because I thought, all right, I'm going to go from having a job and now just having this business where it's 100% commission, totally different. But it's so thankful I made a clean break, took the leap, and it really has only gotten better from there.
Awesome, awesome. So one of the things that I also find interesting is, how did you come to getting comfortable with picking, the niche of like, hey, this is the type of business that I'm going to focus on. How did you get to that point?
Yeah, well, I definitely had some experience using travel agents in the past. So actually, it's kind of twofold. I was doing a lot of my own travel planning for myself and friends and family over the course of the years. Took my first international trip in 2002, and that was really what sparked my love of travel. So it was once I had graduated college and was really able to kind of do a lot more on my own. But there was one trip in particular where I thought, I don't really know where to begin and what to do, and it was to go to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji, so all together. And so reached out to a travel agent, and while it wasn't a terrible experience, it wasn't stellar. And I found that, the experience working with that agent, the attention to detail, the personalization, the ongoing care and support, it just was a little lacking. And I thought, you know what, this is something that if I want this, other people may as well. And that was really how I thought about how I wanted to create my agency. It wasn't going to be just transactional, meet someone and book them on the trip. It was really going to be about that ongoing level of support and just a really higher level of service.
Awesome. And that's a pretty long trip to go on, to not have a stellar experience.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, it wasn't bad, but after I got home, looked back and thought, you know what, once I kind of, you see different things and you see where you could have stayed or what you could have done. And I thought, if we would have taken more time, really developing a relationship, that client kind of partner relationship, I think she would have had a better idea of, who I am and how I like to travel and really how to, make it more tailor made. And so that's really what I strive for now when I work with my clients. Again, it's not transactional, it's creating that relationship. Whether it's the first trip or the fifth trip that they book with me, every trip has a different goal. I usually find with my clients like that, some are for relaxing, some are for adventure, some are for exploration. And every single time they're taking a different trip, I'm going through that process of really making sure I understand, what their goals are and what they envision, and then making that come to life.
Awesome. Awesome. So when it comes down to, the travel industry, I mean, I think, there's so many different, options that people have with different tools and different apps. So, how do you approach that part of building out your business to the point where people see the value of working with you versus doing it on their own?
Right. So I get that question, I mean, constantly, why should I work with a travel agent? Or I always get, oh, I didn't realize travel agents still exist, or, because a lot of people think about the old days of having, your brick and mortar travel agency. And, this is before all online, you go in, you get your plane tickets that are actually printed off, and, they book you at a hotel and then you're on your way. And a lot of people don't realize it's actually a fast-paced growing industry. There's tons of agents everywhere. Obviously, we all do things a little bit differently. Some don't, do as much kind of like, I guess, high touch as I do. But that is probably one of the biggest challenges, is a lot of people say, well, I could do this on my own. Why wouldn't I do a lot of the research and, and then book it myself? You do have a lot of online options. But again, I think that what I do goes beyond that transactional experience that you would have online. I always tell people, and not to pick on like Expedia or some of these other websites, but they're not getting to know you as a person, and they're not necessarily providing you with recommendations, expertise, and any type of level of support. Because a lot of times once you book that trip, there's no one else there other than an 800 number, and you don't know who the person is on the other line, or sometimes it takes hours to get through to them, right? And a lot of people that they may love doing research, but I always think you don't really know who's posting those reviews online. Have they had the same, have they traveled as much as you, or do they like the same types of things as you, or did they just have maybe one bad experience, and really that destination or that location is great all all the rest of the time. So I always tell everyone, it's good to find someone that and you trust. So finding an agent that you have a relationship with, and then being able to utilize their expertise to know that they're going to book you with something that is going to be right for you. And I pride myself on, I've really made an effort with my business to, I guess it's a really hard effort to just continue traveling, but I'm always looking at where are people asking to go, and then I prioritize those trips. And when I travel, it's not just vacation, it's meeting with managers of properties, or I meet with tourism boards, I meet local guides. So I'm always making sure that my clients are getting the best when they travel, and they're getting taken care of. So now I think I'm at like 60 countries. I was going to be at a few more this year, but obviously things happen, things were canceled. So hopefully I'll be able to have some do-over trips this coming year. But as I mentioned, I want to make sure that people are getting the assistance of someone that's been there. And again, I don't know necessarily that you get that when you're in that online experience.
Gotcha. And I can say, as a person who's traveled some, because my wife enjoys traveling, and when we've gone to different countries, I would say, especially when we've gone outside the U.S., I think having someone who has experience or can provide more context than what you get online becomes hugely beneficial. I mean, it can be a night and day difference. I mean, when you have kind of that on the ground perspective versus
Mhm.
you're just looking online trying to find the right YouTube video and do exactly what you saw.
Right, exactly. And and a lot of things too with the internet, sometimes and this usually happens with properties. A lot of people will book a hotel online and then they get there and they're like, that was absolutely terrible, or it wasn't in a good area of town, or it was so far away from the city. And so, I think that you can't always believe what you see online. And again, having someone that either has been there, I also do a ton of networking within the industry. I have colleagues that I trust and I've traveled with as well. So when we can't stay in every hotel in the world, but we all support each other, and if we need advice and if we need another set of eyes, we're always looking out for each other. So really, by working with an agent, you're gaining, again, that trusted expertise and education coming from a lot of different directions and a lot of different perspectives. But yeah, sometimes it is hard to recreate what you see online, especially if you don't know where to go or how to get that done.
Absolutely. And I think that it'll probably well, this is my assumption, and I guess I'll phrase it in a question is, when it comes, my experience with working with the travel agents is being able to provide some perspective, because when I haven't worked with a travel agent and I've traveled somewhere and the experience just hasn't been as great, there were things that I wasn't as prepared for or as aware of. Because I think about, there were once I was traveling somewhere and I was standing in line and there was a couple in front of me and they walked up to the counter and they were excited about their trip to Brazil, but they didn't know that they needed a visa to go. And I was just like, oh man, like they've been looking forward to this trip. So when it comes down to like navigating stuff like that, I mean, do you feel like there will be a stronger need for working with a travel agent, people that know those types of things as we work through, what life is going to look like after COVID?
Yeah. So actually, a lot of people are surprised. So there are still individuals traveling right now. I know that's very, controversial, and it's based on everyone's, their own personal level of comfort. But there are individuals that are traveling now. There's ones that are booking trips for 2021 in anticipation of getting back into travel. And one of the number one things, whether they were previous clients or their new referrals to me, is they're saying, I need your help even more because I don't understand what these rules and regulations are, what the protocols are. We are getting updates almost daily from, all of these different countries, with new government protocols, or, you have to have a test within this certain amount of time, or, and beyond tests, usually there's health forms that have to be filled out. And there's just a lot of timing that goes along with it too. And I think a lot of people want to know that they have someone that's kind of not necessarily holding their hands, but it's going to be there every step of the way to make sure that they are able to, get their test in the right time, they're getting the paperwork completed, and that they're not going to show up to a counter and realize that they don't have what they need to go. I think that's, one of the biggest things. And I think, with the vaccine coming out, that's, we're hearing things about as far as that potentially being needed to go travel to certain areas, and certain airlines are going to be requiring it. So I think a lot of people are just going to need the support to know, well, does this destination require it? Does this one not? And again, just how do you sort through all of that information?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Awesome. Now, one question I want to ask is about, it's one thing I think to start your business because you have the passion for it and the work of, like I said, of providing the service. But what has it been like actually, the background, the administrative side of building a business around, something that you enjoy and a service you love providing?
Right. No, well, it's definitely, a lot of people think that I just travel and like hang out on beaches and things. While, like I said, I do go and check those out, and I'm always, I'm usually most years I'm on the road quite a bit traveling. But as most entrepreneurs know, you wear, especially at the start, you wear a lot of different hats. So, I'm not just planning and researching and, booking travel and supporting my clients, I'm the marketing team and I'm the accounting team, and you wear, all of the hats of a regular business, of a regular company. As the years have gone on, I've realized things that I don't necessarily enjoy doing. Like I don't like keeping track of my business books. So I've hired some people out to take care of, the pieces and parts, or the things that I just, didn't really have time for once I built up enough of a clientele base. And, sometimes those things aren't fun, but I know even within just the travel part, with booking, a lot of people don't realize it's very different than just going again on Expedia and, clicking and it's like, okay, you're booked. There's a significant amount of like background work that's being done, especially if you're piecing together a trip that has a lot of different like logistics. So you think about if you're going to Europe and, you have your flights, you have your, transfers to your hotel, then you have the hotel, maybe you're going to do some rail. And we're basically making sure that every step of the way, they know what the previous step was. And so working with all of our partners to do that, that takes a lot of time. But also this past year, a lot of time we've had to cancel or rebook things. So again, it's not just a click of a button like, okay, you're canceled. We're dealing with everything from, travel insurance claims and making sure people get their money back and doing follow-up. So there's a lot more going on than I think a lot of people realize. And I know at least within the travel industry, a lot of people get into it because they think that they're just going to be hanging out on a beach, but really most of the time you are just behind your computer doing business tasks. So it's not always as glamorous as people think it is. But again, wouldn't trade that for anything.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, when it comes down to, like I said, all the services that you provide, when someone's looking to do business with you, what can they expect when they're doing business with you?
Yeah. So, my clients, I mean, everyone's getting an individualized experience with me, because again, I think every trip is individual to the people that are going on it. And it isn't just it's not cookie cutter. I don't send everyone to the same exact place because again, we're all different. We're all seeking different things. But everyone does go through the same type of process with me. And there is actually a process. So again, I always start with that relationship building phase. So consultation. So, me getting to know them getting to know me. I know that travel is a huge investment, and my business has been pretty much completely built on referrals. So a lot of times people have never even met me in person, especially since everything can be done, whether it's via Zoom or over the phone. And I want to make sure that they trust me to that, with their dollars to really take that investment and build a trip that's going to be right for them. So again, that relationship part is first and foremost. And we do not necessarily multiple consultations, but it's as many calls as it takes to make sure that I'm really getting a good feel for what they want or to clarify things. From there, it goes into research and proposals. So I do all of the research based on what I've gained from those conversations. I put together proposals. Clients, sometimes they're like, okay, I love all of it, let's go. Some of them will say, oh, now that we look at it, we're spending too much time here, can we change this? And we tweak and we work on it until it looks exactly the way they want. So after the proposal, then it's as much trip preparation as they need. I actually work with a lot of like honeymooners. So sometimes it's their first time leaving the country. So we talk through what it's going to be like to go through, customs and immigration, or, whatever questions they have. And then of course I am supporting them while they're traveling. So if both myself and the teams that I have on ground, so they have questions or, say they miss a connection, they know they have someone to call that's going to pick up the phone right away and help. And then of course there's actually an after trip. So following up and making sure that it was what they wanted, and what, if they wanted to change anything for next time, what would it be? Because again, I treat all of my clients as if this is going to be a lifelong relationship. So, what can we do to continue to get better?
Awesome. Awesome. So where can people find you online, or how can they get in touch with you on social media?
Yeah. So, I mean, really the best place, my website's going to have everything, which is www.planyourperfectvacation.com. No, it's a little lengthy. So planyourperfectvacation.com. But that is also my social media handles. So Instagram, it's at Plan Your Perfect Vacation. Same with Facebook as well. But you can get all of those links on my website. And even from there, you can schedule a call. I always tell people, even if you just want to talk travel and you're like, hey, we're thinking of going somewhere in 2022, it's not like we're sitting down and we're planning a trip right at that moment. I'm always up to talk to people. My mission since I started my business has been to inspire people to see the world. So if that helps them get inspired to at least start dreaming and planning for a trip, I'm always up for it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, one last
Mhm.
question I like to ask every guest that comes on is when you
Yeah.
think about, your journey as a business owner and you think about from, where you came from, where you are now and your aspirations for the future, what's two pieces of advice that you would share with other business owners?
Yeah, and definitely this is the two that are first coming to mind. It took a little while to learn. I would say first and foremost, when I first started on my entrepreneurial journey, I was always scared to ask people questions. So not even necessarily within like the travel industry, but other entrepreneurs. And I have come to find out that as you think of entrepreneurs as a group, they are all, from what I've found for the most part, willing to support each other. And so if you're starting out on your journey, or even if you're in a spot where you feel like you've hit a wall in your journey, I've had so much success reaching out to other entrepreneurs that I see are thriving and doing well and saying, hey, can we have a conversation, or can we get a cup of coffee, or whatever it may be. And I have learned so much, again, both people within my industry, but also more so even those without, and just getting those different perspectives. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is just ask. And people are definitely willing to share their knowledge, because I think overall we want to help support each other and see each other thrive. And then the second thing that comes to mind is, I think as an entrepreneur, and I know this might be within your own industry, it's really hard, and I think it's hard in life, to not always be playing that comparison games, like, oh, are they doing more in sales, or do they have more clients, or things like that. And I think getting very focused on what your definition of success is as an entrepreneur will make your journey so much more enjoyable. So I really had to, at first when I was starting and I was, again, building my client base, I would, get down on myself and, well, why am I not getting as many clients, or this and that? And I thought, well, my goal is to inspire people to see the world, but what are my goals as an entrepreneur? And it kind of came down to, I defined it as like these 3 M's. I think I actually may have read about it in a book, but money, meaning, and mobility. So how much money do I feel I need to make to be successful to me? And to me, that was enough to, pay my bills, to go on some nice trips. But I never started, in this industry I don't have grand ambition to like be a mega agency. Like I have 3 associates that work with me right now. I love having a small team, and that's where I just really enjoy and thrive in mentoring them. So for me, that money piece, it wasn't like I needed to make billions of dollars. What was I going to be comfortable with? Meaning, as far as that second M, does my business have meaning to me and to my clients? So again, am I making people, do I feel good when I'm serving them? And do they feel good when they're getting what they wanted? And then lastly, mobility. I wanted the freedom of being an entrepreneur. And while that means I work way more hours than I ever did in the corporate world, I'm happier doing it because I can do it from anywhere. And my business has really allowed me, I can take it on the road. I can go visit family and still be working. And that, to me, those 3 pieces have really, in times when I think like, am I doing enough, or they're doing more? I'm like, no, I'm actually really happy. Like, this is everything that I could have wanted. You just have to figure out what is your definition of success, and that'll help keep you grounded.
Awesome. Well, Samantha, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your insight, your perspective. Really appreciate having you as a guest on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've enjoyed my time as well. And I would definitely, especially going back to that first tip, if anyone has questions on business, or, I'm always open and available. It doesn't have to be about travel as well. So please reach out to your entrepreneur friends and utilize them. I think we all can learn from each other.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.